What's up, everybody? Truth Tiger is back again with another video for you all. I'm going to talk today about how narcissistic enablers and narcissistic bystanders do just as much damage as the narcissist themselves, And when you have a narcissist, you typically do have a lot of enablers and a lot of bystanders. And some of the enablers have a mentality that's called codependency, and they are, as creepy as this sounds, they are unfortunately sort of in a form of mental or spiritual or psychic slavery towards the narc, and they really try to make their life all about pleasing the narc and not making the narc upset and walking on tiptoes and eggshells around the narc. And they have unfortunately been programmed by the narcissist to act this way. And they will do things that will sacrifice their own morals and their own ethics to keep the narcissist happy. So, unfortunately, when you deal with a narcissist, sometimes these people are referred to as flying monkeys. And a lot of times, these people are not just necessarily codependent victims, but they have narcissistic tendencies themselves, but they're just like a weaker narcissist. That sometimes can happen and occur. And sometimes they are victims to it. And, well, they all are victims to it in a way, but some of them are truly decent people who just need to get out of that. And I think all of us, in terms of narcissistic abuse, have fallen into that on some level where you end up covering for someone you should not cover for and end up sacrificing your own ethics for them. And I know that a couple times here and there I've fallen into that, especially with, parents and family and that type of stuff. And I'm not trying to blame anybody who's been a victim of narcissism or has fallen into this or whatever. Like, that's not the purpose of this. But I do want to show how these bystanders ultimately do enable the narcissist and ultimately do make things a lot worse. I think about the narcissistic husband who has a wife who is maybe like this, or maybe a narcissistic wife who has a husband like this, and then that enabler or that victim of the narc will then sort of like discipline the kids and get mad at the kids and be like, all right, kids, don't make your father mad, or, don't get your mom mad or whatever. And they'll ultimately even turn against their own children and things of that nature. And, yeah, it's the narcissists always have a lot of people like this. And then there's the bystanders who are not necessarily victims to the narc at all, but just live lives of complete apathy and live lives of complete, where they think neutrality is good. There's not really good or evil, just keep everything neutral. And they don't want conflicts and they don't want issues, and they are very apathetic and uncaring people, and they are also very cowardly people. So when narcissistic abuse happens and they see it happening, and they kind of know, like, oh, he is really a weird manipulative guy, or she's trouble, just don't, I don't want to mess with her. And they do even have awareness of the narcissists, but they won't do anything about them whatsoever. They will never call them out on their behavior. They will never, seek for any kind of justice. They will never help the victims. And their mentality toward the victims is more like, not like, oh man, like he's stuck in that relationship with that crazy lady, or oh man, like he is just not good to her, or just like, oh man, I know their parents are really weird, or, instead of trying to tell them, like, hey, like your parents, the way they treat you is not good, or that relationship's not good for you, or your boss is really manipulative, or that coworker you have, I see they're acting very weird. Rather than doing any of that, they almost sort of see you as a sacrificial lamb, and they're more like, well, I don't have to deal with that because he's stuck with her and not me, or, she's got to deal with his craziness or whatever, and they'll have this mentality where they're like, well, not me. They're like, that's happening to him, not me. So whatever, that's her problem, or so they really do have a mentality towards others like that, a very apathetic and almost like they really don't care, and they're really happy to kind of see, that happen to you, and it's I would say a lot of these bystanders probably have some amount of narcissistic tendencies, or maybe they're not narcissists, but they're just not good people in some way. And they have a very lukewarm, apathetic, very, very, very uncaring attitude towards others. And they're not mean. They try to be kind of nice in little ways here and there. But if you really need help, or you really have a problem, or you're really going through things, like, they will never help you out. The apathetic people, like, all the times in my life I've had some kind of thing I needed help with, or like, my car's at the shop, can you give me a ride? Blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, they can't help out, they don't care, like, so yeah, these bystander people, they sit back and watch and just allow it to happen, and they don't care at all, and they don't want to help you, even though they know that these narcissists are bad people, like, they don't want to help you out. They fundamentally don't care at all, if it's not happening to them, it's whatever, and they have a very like a mentality of like, I protect myself, and then maybe there's a few family members I protect. But in terms of anything outside that, like, they don't care. They don't want to help others. They don't want to do anything outside of themselves. They are completely selfish people. And yeah, they're not insane manipulators or abusers or crazy people like the narcs, but they're down for that to happen, and they don't care that that happens. And when there are narcissists, they don't stand up to them at all. And what they'll actually do is, when they see you standing up to a narcissist, they will actually sort of take the narcissist side in a weird way. They'll just say, he acts like that sometimes, just don't stand up to him. Don't say anything back to him. Just you got to put your head down. We all need to put our heads down, and we all need to just sit back and allow this to happen. And then you'll say no, and then they'll be like, well, wait, and I've literally had this with people, and it's like, when you're fighting against evil and people sit on a fence and are just taking I don't know who's right and wrong, when they really, really, really deeply do, they are taking the side of evil. They are enabling evil by taking that attitude. And then they're looking at you like, well, he's kind of messing up the matrix a little bit. He's messing up the status quo by fighting back against that narcissist, So I don't know. He's kind of problematic. Like, we had a thing going here. We got a status quo, and he's kind of just messing with it, So we don't really like that, And I'm trying to think of how to describe this well, but there's definitely a mentality with the enablers and with the bystanders that's like that. And for the enablers that are kind of enslaved to this narcissistic thing, like, you'd be surprised what they will do for the narc. And it's like the narc is like God over their lives, and they will defend the narcissist until they die. And it's just like, this person is horrible and abusive to you, but you're willing to stand up for them, And I've really seen that where I've had narcissists, I've sort of caught them in the act, narking someone out or being weird, and I'm like, hey, stop this, we're not doing this anymore. And I've come in and like kind of clapped my hands and been like, nope, 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 and shut it down. And then the person who's a victim of this is like mad at me and is like, oh, we were just having a nice conversation. You don't understand, And a lot of times the people who are like slaves to this are like, they really are very much willing to put aside ethics and morality, and they want to sort of maybe live out life in a childish kind of way. And I mean, the narcissists do too, and it's everybody is kind of childish, and the narcissists are the most childish. They are the egotistical 2-year old that's, I need my toy. Mom, I'm crying. Get me out of my crib. I'm hungry. They are that child, is what the narcissists are. But like, everybody is just like not willing to be an adult and doesn't want to take accountability for their actions. And when you go against the narcissist, you almost do sort of say, hey, everybody needs to act morally and ethically, and that moral and ethical actions are needed in this world. And you almost shine a light on that, and everyone's like, I don't know, we don't want ethics, we don't want morality, And you're like, hey, like, come on, everybody, So, I mean, the bystander, if the bystanders and the enablers weren't there, that's where the narcissist draws all their power from. So the narcissist would not even have any power, because they would have to do everything on their own, and they would not be able to get supplied and get their ego boosted. And have you noticed these enablers boost the narcissist ego? like anything in the world. Like if it's a narcissistic guy, there'll be all these girls like, "Ooh, you're so handsome. He's so cool. He's so this. He's so that." And I'm like, this dude is gonna just treat you like trash. Like, what are you doing? Or if he's maybe not a handsome guy, he's like an intellectual or whatever. They'll have all these people like, he's so smart. He's so this. He's so that. Whatever. Or if it's like a covert narcissist guy who acts like a victim, they're all, he's just this sweet man and he's such a victim. And we really, everybody just feels so bad for him, you know? And oh my God. And if it's a narcissistic girl, there's all these guys around her like, oh, well, really, I want you so bad. Please take me out on a date or whatever. All these guys simping after her or whatever. If she's a covert narcissistic woman, all these women will be around her like, I know guys are so bad and you've had it so hard. And, you know, we just, girl, we stick up for you. You know, girl, we protect you or whatever. Or just if it's more of a kind of more of a career woman or a sensitive woman, or I don't know that whatever. I mean, I don't know women as well as I know men, but I know for women there'll be a big sisterhood support system for a lot of these narcissistic kind of women, or it'll be a bunch of guys on their hands and knees simping for her. And it's just like, it's time to stop. Just ignore these narcissists. Just literally ignore them. That's all you got to do. Don't pay attention to them. Don't follow them. Don't listen to them. Don't look at them. Just ignore them and they'll melt. They live off of other people's attention, and like stop giving it to them. Like the enablement these people get is just, it's nuts. The enablers that will just show up in their life to like just be like, oh, you know, it's like that show Rick and Morty, you know, where it's just like you have Rick, who I mean, I think most narcissists kind of wish they were Rick from Rick and Morty, but they're not, you know, especially the intellectual types, whatever. But and that's kind of who a lot of them wish they were. But it's just like, why is there always some Morty showing up to just be like, oh, I'll go along with it? And it's like there's like five of these freaking people, and it's just like, why? Stop! You are allowing the abuse, you know. And they end up getting abused and kicked around by the narcissist too. And oh my gosh, it's a complicated web. I'm not claiming to have untangled it or to have all the knowledge or to have it all figured out or anything like that. I am grappling with this and struggling with this as much as you all watching this. And we're untangling this web together. You know, we really are, but it's just like the narcissists and the enablers were just they allowed this stuff to happen, and they're just as bad as the narcissist in the aggregate, you know. They really are, you know, and just I hate how much enabling and how much stuff I've seen over the years with narcissists, where it's just like, oh my God, there's just an enabler around every corner, and I can't hang out. I cut the enablers out too, like the narcissists and the enablers all get cut out, you know. And even though the enablers are sometimes nice to me or whatever, like I'm sorry, but you're going along with that, and like the level of enabling I've seen from narcissists in my life, where all of a sudden all these people will, oh, we're all gonna go hang out at his house, or we all have to just support her. It's like, no, you don't. And it's almost like they want to be under the mind control and under the manipulation. It's like they want to be part of the games. They want to participate in the evil. They just don't want to have to be the one who touches it first. They don't want to be the tip of the spear in the evil. And in that regard, they're almost worse than the narcissist, because it's like, we're not going to necessarily initiate the evil, but like we'll follow your lead in the evil, you know, and that's kind of a lot of what they do, you know. And it's like the fact that they have admiration for the narcissist and they want to be like the narcissist in a lot of ways is like, it's just ridiculous. And it's just like all these enablers, they are just as bad as the narc. They really, really are, you know, like, oh my God, like it's just, it's an evil regime, and it's evil regimes within family systems, it's evil regimes in workplaces, it's evil regimes in politics, it's evil regimes in the corporate world, it's evil regimes in social movements, it's evil regimes everywhere, and everyone's just so willing to like be, yay, I'll participate in it, you know. And it's like, no. And I get that society programs people like that and stuff like that, but I think a big part of it is we're all going to get in trouble together, and it'll be more your fault than my fault, you know. And these enablers, man, like it's pretty nuts, you know. And I mean, I don't want to get too off the track here or get too crazy with this, but like on the meta level, on the big level, I think about something like the Nazis or Stalinist Russia or Maoist China or any abusive regime. And there was all these people willing to line up and follow along with it. And sure, people were scared and intimidated and things like that. But beyond that, there were a lot of people who were willing to go along with it, who did not want to think for themselves. You know, that's a huge, huge part of this is a lot of people just don't want to think for themselves. And the narcissist allows them to turn their brain off and just robotically, you know, and they like doing that. You know, that's a big, big part of it is a lot of people just want to power down. And, you know, I've seen men with wives like this where they're just totally just like, and the wife is like, all angry and crazy. And they're just like, robotically going along with it, like literally like robots. And you're talking to her, and he's just kind of there, like, you know, the weird look on his face, and it's just like, oh my god, you know, they love. That's just an example I have. I mean, there's definitely yeah, narcissists who can get their wives like that, narcissistic husbands who can get their wives like that, and stuff like that. You know, most certainly, 100%. But it's just like why people just want to turn their brains off and go into robot mode. Turn your brain on. Turn on your brain. Turn your brain on. Don't turn your brain off, you know? And that's what a lot of enablers want. They just want to turn their brain off, and they just want to not think about anything and not think about themselves or their own situation. And again, I'm not trying to minimize people who are victims of this, and I'm not trying to minimize the victims in any way, shape, or form. But like at some point, like, are you going to give your whole life up to being in the support of evil? Are you going to give your whole life up to aiding and abetting evil? Like, oh my god! And like all the situations where I got knocked out, like if there weren't enablers everywhere, it wouldn't have worked like this. And in terms of narcissistic triangulation, like enabling is that wouldn't work without enablers. And that's like where I'll make a separate video on this, but where a narcissist will essentially be really crappy to you, but then be nice to everyone all around you. And like, look, if those people weren't enablers, they'd see through it. They'd realize what was going on. But on some level, they kind of know what's happening, and they're like, well, at least we're not getting abused. So, you know, yeah. And they're cowards. These enablers are cowards. They are cowards, and they will not stand up for themselves. They are cowards, and they will not stand up to the narcissistic BS. You know, they are massive cowards. And the narcissists themselves are cowards too. You know, they are. They're massive cowards as well. They're little, sneevling little snakes, you know. And if people would just take some courage and stand up for this stuff, like these things wouldn't happen. You know, like people are involved in communities and all kinds of things, and horrible things are happening to them at home and whatever, and nobody cares. You know, like I've seen that so much where there's a community of people and there is a narcissistic husband being nasty to his wife, a narcissistic wife being nasty to her husband, narcissistic parents being nasty to their children. And, you know, it's like if people in the community actually had some care and empathy for the people around them, this stuff would quickly be exposed. But they're just so like, well, I'm selfish and I'm focused on me. So I don't care what's going on in your situation. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to look out for you. I don't love my fellow. I don't love my neighbor. I don't care about other people. And they don't, you know? And that's why this stuff goes on, you know? And people really need to have more courage, you know, and actually stand up to this crap and not take it, you know? And oh my God. Oh my God, you know? These enablers do so much damage. They do so much damage. And they act like, well, it's all the narcissist. The narcissist is all the blame goes to the narcissist. I'm just a victim of it. I'm just going along with it, or I'm just being neutral. I'm just sitting on a fence. And it's like, no, you are equally culpable. You know, you are culpable in the same kind of way as the narcissist. And they think this is their big get out of jail free card, and oh boy, is it not, you know? So people need to have courage. They need to be strong. They need to stand up. And I just want to let you guys know who've been through abuse. Like these enablers, they are accountable too. And the enablers think they're not, you know, the narcissists think they're going to gaslight their way out of accountability and sort of do all these little tricks and all this little crap to get out of it. And like the enablers think that it's all on the narcissists, and the narcissist is the one who's going to be accountable. But no, the accountability is going to go to all of them, and they are not free from accountability. And man, all these narcissists, all these enablers and bystanders to narcissists is just they're going to get theirs, you know. They will. So yeah, everybody, I hope this was a good video. I hope you all enjoyed. God bless, and yeah, have a good one.